"Papa, I'm feeling very cold," Priscilla said softly. Her small voice was weak and tired. Boniface pulled her close and covered her with a torn wrapper. He smiled, even though his own teeth were shaking. "Don't worry, my daughter," he said. "The rain will stop soon." But the rain didn't stop. It kept falling harder and harder, like the sky was crying with them. Boniface looked up. The roof was leaking. Water dropped everywhere, plop, plop, plop. The cold wind entered through the holes in the wall. He placed an old bowl under the leak, but the bowl was already full. Water splashed on the ground and wet their small mud. He sighed. His eyes were red. He had not eaten since morning. There was no food at home. Only a small cup of curry, and that was for Priscilla. He looked at his daughter. Her hair was wet, her dress dirty, but her face was calm and peaceful. She leaned on her father's chest and whispered, "Papa, don't be sad. One day, God will make us rich and happy." Boniface felt his heart break. He smiled and touched her cheek gently. "You are my sunshine, Priscilla," he said. "I believe one day God will remember us." Thunder flashed through the window. The whole room shook. The rain poured down like a river. Boniface stood up quickly and tried to block the leak with old plastic, but it was useless. The roof was too weak. The cold water ran down his back, but he didn't care. He only wanted to keep his daughter dry. He took an old sack and placed it on the floor. Then he carried Priscilla and laid her on it. He sat beside her, covering her again with the wrapper. Minutes passed, hours passed, yet the rain kept falling. Boniface looked around their small mud house. Nothing much was there, just a small table, a broken stool, and 2 dirty plates. He sighed deeply and whispered, "God, please show us mercy, even if it's just one miracle." The candle beside him started to fade. He held Priscilla's hand and began to sing a soft song, a sad, slow song that came from his heart. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky, but inside there was silence, only the sound of rain hitting the roof. Priscilla closed her eyes and slept off in her father's arms. Her breathing was soft and gentle. Boniface watched her face and smiled sadly. He brushed her wet hair away and whispered, "Sleep well, my angel." Then he looked up again, watching the rain fall through the broken roof. The water ran down like silver lines in the dark. He whispered one more time, "God, please, just one miracle. I'm not asking for much." His voice broke, but even with tears in his eyes, he kept smiling, because he didn't want Priscilla to wake up and see him cry. Slowly, the candle went out. The wind grew louder, and still the rain continued to fall. Inside, Boniface sat in the cold, a poor father praying for a better tomorrow. The next morning, the sun rose weakly through the small holes in their zinc roof. Priscilla's tummy made a loud sound, grr, and she held it tight, her face small and tired. "Papa, I'm hungry," she said softly. Boniface sat up from the old mat, rubbing his eyes. He looked around the small room, just one rusty pot, a half-empty tin of salt, and a torn sack in the corner. He walked to the shelf and opened the small plastic bowl where they usually kept curry. It was empty. He turned it upside down, not even one grain fell out. For a moment, he just stood there, quiet. His face was still, but his eyes looked heavy, the kind that made your heart feel like stone. "Papa, is there curry?" Priscilla asked again, her little eyes bright with hope. Boniface forced a smile. "Not this morning, my girl, but don't worry, I'll find something for you to eat." He stepped outside, his shirt torn at the shoulder, his slippers worn and soft like paper. The street was already alive, market women shouting, children laughing, motorbikes rushing past. But Boniface's stomach made a sound again. He swallowed hard and went back inside. Meanwhile, Priscilla looked at him sadly. She could see he was trying to be strong, but she could also see his hands shaking. "Papa, maybe I can help," she said softly. Before Boniface could stop her, she grabbed a small black nylon and ran out of the house. "Priscilla, come back here," Boniface shouted, but she was already gone. At the back of the market, where flies buzzed and smoke rose from burnt paper, Priscilla stopped. The dump site was full of rotten food, old rice, broken plates, peels of banana, and pieces of bread covered in dust. She covered her nose and started looking, pushing aside the trash carefully. She found half a fish head, a piece of yam, and a spoonful of rice in a dirty plate. As Priscilla bent down to pick the food, a big market woman nearby noticed her. "Eh, little girl, are you picking food from the dustbin?" she shouted so everyone could hear. She laughed loudly and said, "So your father is that poor shoemaker who can't even feed his own child? What a shame." Priscilla froze. Her small hands trembled. The words cut deep into her heart. Her eyes filled with tears, but she tried to stay strong. She wanted to say, "My papa is a good man. He is trying his best," but her voice broke before the words could come out. The woman shook her head and kept laughing. "Go home and tell your father to stop dreaming. Poverty is your family's identity." Priscilla lowered her head, her heart heavy with pain. She quietly picked the little scraps of food, put them inside her nylon bag, and ran home. When she reached the house, she opened the bag and smiled. "Papa, see, I found some food." Boniface looked at her, his eyes wide. "Where did you get this from?" She lowered her head. From the back of the market." For a moment, Boniface said nothing. Then he sat down slowly. His hands trembled as he took the nylon. The food smelled bad. He looked at his daughter's bright, hungry eyes, full of trust, full of love. She smiled. "We can eat now, Papa." He smiled weakly. Deep down, he wanted to stop her from eating the bad food. He couldn't stand watching his only daughter eat the unhealthy food. But the sad truth is, Boniface could not even afford an ordinary cup of gari, let alone buy food. He sighed and pushed the food back to her. "I'm not hungry, my daughter." "But Papa." She nodded and began to eat slowly. Boniface watched her, every bite, every small smile, and his eyes became wet. He was hungry too, his stomach twisted like a rope, but his pride wouldn't let him eat from a dustbin. He looked away and whispered, "God, please, I can't continue like this. Bless me so I can take care of my daughter." Outside, the sky grew dark again, and Boniface sat there in silence, watching his daughter lick her fingers with joy, her little face glowing in the faint evening light. He smiled, but inside, his heart was bleeding quietly.
The next afternoon, the sun was hot and sharp in the sky. The dusty road beside Boniface's small house looked like fire. Inside the little mud house, Priscilla sat on the floor, drawing circles in the sand with a stick. "Papa, will we eat today?" she asked softly. Boniface smiled, even though his stomach made a sound again. "God will provide," he said. Just then, they heard a loud voice outside. "Boniface! Boniface! Where's this lazy man?" It was Auntie Maggie. Her voice was strong, and her slippers made a loud sound as she walked toward the house. She wore a big head tie, shiny wrapper, and gold bangles that jingled as she moved. Boniface came out and bowed a little. "Auntie Maggie, good afternoon." She looked at him from head to toe and hissed, "Afternoon? You still live in this dirty mud house?" She laughed loudly. "Look at you! My sons are all abroad sending me dollars, and you're here begging for gari." Some neighbors stopped to watch. Maggie liked when people watched her. She raised her voice and said, You think this land is yours? It belongs to me. I will pull this house down soon." Priscilla stepped out, scared. "Please, Auntie, don't break our house," she said softly. Maggie turned to her, her eyes sharp like pepper. "You little rat, you dare talk to me?" "I just beg you, Auntie," Priscilla said, her small hands joined together. Before anyone could speak, Maggie gave her a quick slap on the cheek. "Bah!" Priscilla gasped, her eyes wide. Tears rolled down her face, but she didn't move. "Stop! Don't do that to my daughter again!" Boniface shouted. "She's just a child." Maggie laughed loudly. "Poor little rat, she has no respect. You better teach her before I do." Priscilla ran to her father and held his leg tightly, crying. Boniface's hands shook. He wanted to speak, but his voice failed. The neighbors whispered among themselves. Some shook their heads, others just watched quietly. Maggie raised her chin high. "You're lucky I'm in a good mood today. But hear me well, Boniface. By next week, this house must go down. That land is mine." Then she turned around, laughing as she walked away. Her bangles jingled loudly, her wrapper swaying side to side. Priscilla wiped her tears with the back of her hand and looked up at her father. "Papa, why did she slap me? Did I do anything wrong?" Boniface knelt down and hugged her tight. "No, my daughter, you did nothing wrong. Some people hurt others because they think it makes them strong." She sniffed and said, "But I don't like her. She's wicked." Boniface looked into her eyes gently. "We won't hate her, my girl. Hate makes the heart heavy. We will pray instead." Then right there, in front of their house, he knelt down on the dusty ground. "God, please," he whispered, "don't let my enemies win. Give me the strength to stay calm and money to train and protect my daughter. Show us mercy." Priscilla knelt beside him and closed her eyes too. The wind blew softly. The trees nearby moved as if they were listening. Boniface's heart was heavy. When he stood up, his knees were covered in dust, but his face was calm, like a man who had chosen peace even in pain. Priscilla looked up at him. "Papa, will Auntie Maggie really break our house?" Boniface smiled faintly. "She might try, but God lives here with us, and no one can pull down where God lives." The little girl smiled, though her eyes were still wet. She believed her father's words because they always sounded true. The next day, the sun was high, the air was dry and hot. Boniface sat outside his small shop, holding an old shoe he was trying to fix. His fingers moved slowly, his face covered in sweat. He had not eaten since morning, but he kept working. "If I can finish this one shoe, maybe I can buy gari for Priscilla." Just then, a loud voice broke the quiet. "Boniface!" Boniface looked up. It was the local moneylender, Mr. Okoro. He was a tall man with a big chest and a shiny wristwatch. His eyes were sharp and angry. "Boniface!" he shouted again, walking fast toward the shop. Boniface quickly stood up. "Good afternoon, sir." "What is good about the afternoon? You still have mouth to greet me when you owe me?" Boniface swallowed hard. "Sir, please, I have not made much from the shop. I will pay. Just give me—" "Give you what exactly?" he shouted, stepping closer. "You borrowed money since 3 months now. I need my money immediately." Boniface looked down, silent. People around started watching. Some whispered, others laughed quietly. Mr. Okoro pushed the small wooden table inside the shop and said, "If you can't pay me, I'll collect this table." "Sir, please," Boniface begged. "That table is all I have to work with. How will I feed my daughter?" But the man didn't listen. He dragged the table out. The small hammer and brush fell to the ground. Boniface rushed to pick them up. "Next time, if you don't pay me," he said loudly, "I'll come for the roof over your head." People in the street gasped. Some laughed, shaking their heads. Boniface stood still, his face red with shame. He tried to speak, but his mouth felt dry. Mr. Okoro turned and walked away with the table, whistling as he went. Boniface watched him until he disappeared around the corner. Then he slowly bent down, picked up the little hammer, and held it tight. His hands were shaking. He sat on the ground beside his shop, his eyes full of tears. But he didn't cry out loud. He just sat quietly, staring at the dust. A few minutes later, he heard small footsteps running toward him. "Papa!" It was Priscilla. Her eyes were wet. She had seen everything. She knelt beside him. "Papa, I'm sorry. I saw what the man did." Boniface looked away, wiping his face quickly. "It's nothing, my daughter. Don't cry." She shook her head. "Papa, maybe I should go back to work in the farms again. I can help you. I can carry firewood and weed for people." Boniface looked at her sadly. "No, my child, you are too young for that kind of work." "But Papa, we have nothing," she said softly. "Maybe if I help, that man will not come again." Boniface touched her shoulder gently. "I will find another way. I don't want you to suffer. You hear me?" Priscilla nodded slowly, but her eyes were still wet. They sat together quietly for a while. The sound of the market filled the air, people talking, traders shouting, goats bleating in the distance. Boniface took a deep breath. "Everything I own is gone," he said softly, mostly to himself. Priscilla looked at him and held his hand. "You still have me, Papa," she said in a small voice. Boniface turned to her and smiled weakly. "Yes, my sunshine, I still have you." The wind blew gently through the broken roof of his small shop. Dust floated in the sunlight. He looked up at the sky and whispered, "God, please don't let this be the end for us." The street grew quiet again. Boniface sat there with Priscilla's small hand in his. His heart was heavy, but his eyes stayed strong. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, only that he had to keep going, no matter what.
The night came slowly. The moon was bright, but their small house was dark. Only one candle burned beside an old tin cup of water. The sound of frogs filled the air outside. Boniface sat on the small wooden bed. His clothes were still wet from the rain earlier that day. He had tried to fix his table, but he had no tools left. His hands were tired, his back ached, and his heart felt heavy. He looked at the wall. The brown mud was cracked and wet. Drops of water fell from the roof one by one. He sighed and whispered, "Oh God, when will this end?" Priscilla sat beside him, holding a small wrapper over her shoulders. Her tiny legs dangled from the bed. She looked at her father's rough hands, hands full of marks and old cuts. She could see he was sad again. "Don't worry too much, Papa," she said. "Things will not be like this forever." Boniface smiled a little. "You always say that, my dear." Priscilla nodded. "Because I believe it." She looked at the candle, its small flame dancing in the wind, then slowly held her father's hands. They were warm and rough, but she held them tight.
She closed her eyes and whispered, "God, please bless my father." Boniface looked down at her, surprised. "I know you can hear me, God. Make my papa rich like Auntie Maggie's children. Let them see he's not lazy. Let them see he is a good man." Boniface's lips trembled. He looked away quickly, blinking fast. Priscilla opened her eyes and smiled. "One day, Papa, you will wear fine clothes too. You will eat good food, and you will buy me a red shoe." He laughed a little through his tears. "A red shoe?" "Yes," she said, giggling, "with shining stones on top." He touched her cheek gently. "You are my little sunshine." She smiled proudly. "Because I believe in you, Papa." He looked at his daughter, still smiling at him with her small eyes full of hope. He thought of how she prayed for him every night, how she always believed, even when there was nothing to believe in. "Come, my dear," he said softly. "Let's sleep. Tomorrow will be better." Priscilla nodded and lay beside him, placing her head on his arm. "Papa," she said, before closing her eyes, "when we become rich, can we build a big house?" He smiled. "Yes, a big house. With no leaking roof, right?" He laughed quietly. "Yes, no leaking roof. And I'll have my own small room?" He nodded. "Yes, you will." "Good," she said happily. "Then I'll keep all my teddy bears there." He laughed again, but as she slowly drifted to sleep, he stayed awake, staring into the darkness, listening to his daughter's soft breathing beside him. He wanted to sleep, but his mind was full of thoughts about the debt, about the insults, about the future. He turned slowly and looked at Priscilla again. Her face was calm, peaceful, and innocent. In that quiet moment, he made a promise in his heart. No matter what, he would fight for her. He would find a way to give her a better life. He closed his eyes and whispered, "Tomorrow I will try again." The next morning came slowly. The air was fresh after the long night of rain. Boniface woke up early and stretched his arms. His old shirt was still damp, but he smiled when he saw Priscilla still sleeping beside him, her small hands curled around his arm. He stood up quietly, trying not to wake her. Then he picked up his little shoebox and walked to the market square. The ground was still wet, and his slippers made soft sounds in the mud. When he reached his small corner, he cleaned his stool with a piece of cloth and sat down. His tools were few now, only a tiny hammer, a bent needle, and a little thread. But he still arranged them neatly. He whispered to himself, "Today will be a good day." Hours passed. People walked by, calling out to traders, buying food, laughing. Boniface smiled at everyone, hoping someone would bring a shoe for him to fix. Just then, a big white car stopped near the market. The sound made everyone turn. The door opened, and a tall man stepped out. He wore fine clothes, a clean white shirt, black trousers, and shiny shoes. He looked like someone from the city. He carried one shoe in his hand, the leather torn at the side. He walked toward Boniface's stall. "Good morning, sir," he said, in a calm voice. Boniface quickly stood up. "Good morning. Please sit." The man smiled and handed him the shoe. "Can you fix this for me? It tore on my way here." Boniface looked at the shoe carefully, his eyes full of focus. "Yes, sir, I can fix it."
He sat down and went straight to work. His hands moved quickly but gently. He pressed, stitched, and hammered with so much care. The market noise faded away. All that mattered was the shoe. The man watched quietly. He looked surprised by how neat Boniface worked. In less than 10 minutes, the shoe looked brand new again. He wiped it clean and handed it back to him. "Here, sir. It is strong now." The man took the shoe and turned it around, smiling. "This is perfect. You work better than most city cobblers." Boniface smiled shyly. "Thank you, sir. I just try my best." The man looked at him again, then asked softly, "You said you live around here?" "Yes, sir. Just down that road. I live with my daughter." The man nodded. "You have great skill and patience. Have you ever thought of working in the city? I could help you find a good job there." Boniface shook his head slowly. "Thank you, sir, but I can't leave my daughter alone. She is all I have." The man smiled kindly. "That is a good father's heart." He reached into his pocket and pulled out some money. "Take this for the good work." Boniface looked surprised. "Ah, sir, this is too much. The fixing is small." "Just take it," he said gently. "You deserve it." Boniface bowed slightly. "God bless you, sir." The man nodded. "And God bless you too." He smiled again, put on his shoe, and walked back to his car. Boniface watched as the white car drove away down the dusty road until he couldn't see it anymore. He sat back on his stool, holding the money in his hand. It was more than he usually made in 2 months. Just then, Priscilla came running to him, holding a small bowl. "Papa, Papa, Auntie Ngozi gave me some rice." Boniface laughed. "May God bless her. Hope you thanked her." Priscilla nodded. Then she looked at the money in his hand and gasped, "Blood of Jesus! Papa, did someone give you money?" He smiled. "Yes, a kind man came to fix his shoe." Priscilla grinned. "See, Papa? I told you good things are coming." Boniface looked at her and smiled. "Yes, my child, maybe this is the start." But deep in his heart, he didn't know that the stranger who came that day was not just anyone. That man was from the same big company where Boniface's late father once worked many years ago. For now, Boniface didn't know. He only sat with his daughter, eating a small plate of rice under the warm afternoon sun. The sound of the market filled the air again. Life went on, but something had changed. Something unseen, quiet, and powerful. It was the beginning of destiny.
One fateful Saturday afternoon. The market was busy that day. Children ran past the stalls, women shouted their prices, and the smell of fresh tomatoes mixed with fried yam in the air. Boniface sat at his little wooden table, his tools neatly arranged. His hands moved fast, fixing torn shoes and slippers. People stopped to watch him work. "Look at him," one woman whispered. "This man fixes shoes so well. Even the city cobblers can't do it like him." Another man nodded. "Yes, and he is so kind, too, always smiling." Word spread quickly through the small village. By afternoon, more people were coming to Boniface's stall. They brought their shoes from far away, and some even waited patiently for him to finish. Unknowing to Boniface, Auntie Maggie was listening from the corner of the street. She had come to buy yams at the market, but her ears caught every word. Wonder shall never end. So he's now a celebrity at the market.
That lazy man, Maggie muttered to herself. Her eyes narrowed and her lips pressed tightly together. She left the market quietly and went straight to the house of a native doctor on the edge of the village. The native doctor was an old man with long white hair and a small pot of herbs beside him. "I want you to close his destiny," she whispered, almost spitting the words. "I don't want him to become rich. Make sure he cannot work or sell anything. Make him fail." The native doctor nodded slowly. "It will cost you something, but it can be done." Auntie Maggie handed over a small pouch of coins. "Do it now," she hissed. "Do it before he rises." That night, Boniface and Priscilla slept quietly in their small mud house. The rain had stopped and the wind was calm, but something strange was in the air, a soft chill that made Boniface shiver. The next morning, he woke to find that no one came to his stall. The market was quiet. People walked past quickly, pretending not to see him. He tried to lift his small table, but it wobbled and cracked loudly. One of the legs broke completely, and the table fell to the ground with a thump. Boniface looked at it, shocked. How did this happen?" he whispered. He tried to fix it, but his hand shook. Then he felt weak, his head ached, and his stomach twisted painfully. Priscilla ran to him. "Papa, what is wrong?" I don't know, my daughter," Boniface said quietly. "Maybe I ate something bad." But it wasn't food. The sickness stayed for days. His hands were too weak to hold the tools, and his body ached. The little money he had earned vanished quickly because he could not work. Priscilla looked after him carefully, bringing him water and trying to feed him small bites of yam and rice. But the sadness in her small eyes made Boniface's heart break even more. "Papa, maybe tomorrow people will come again," she whispered. Boniface tried to smile. Yes, maybe tomorrow. But each morning the market remained quiet. The wind seemed louder, the shadows longer. Boniface sat by the broken table, holding Priscilla's hand. He said softly, "Do not worry, my daughter. We must be strong." Priscilla nodded, though her lips trembled. "Yes, Papa, we are strong." The little girl's faith gave him courage, but inside, a strange feeling lingered, something he could not see or touch, but something heavy, like a dark cloud above the house. At night, the candle flickered for no reason. The roof leaked just a little more. Even the small bowl of water trembled on the table. Boniface looked at Priscilla, who was already sleeping. He whispered softly, "Lord, please protect us. Give me strength to fight whatever this is." Outside, the village was quiet, but somewhere, hidden from sight, a plan was at work, a plan that wanted to stop Boniface before he could rise. The following day, the morning sun was hot and sharp. Boniface's small mud house looked smaller than ever. His body was weak from sickness, his head heavy, and his hands too tired to hold anything. Priscilla sat beside him, brushing his damp hair gently, whispering, "Papa, it will be okay." But it was far from okay. Suddenly, a loud voice broke out. "Boniface! Boniface!" It was Auntie Maggie again. She walked toward their house with a group of men, elders from the village. Her gold bangles jingled as she moved, and her shiny wrapper swayed with every step. Boniface tried to sit up straight, but his body felt very weak. He asked softly, "What is it again, Auntie Maggie?" "You know what this is about," she said, her voice cold. "This land belongs to me. My husband left it for me. You have no right to stay here." The elders whispered among themselves. Their faces were serious. "We have come to settle this matter.
one of the elders said, looking at Boniface. Boniface's heart pounded. "Please, sir, I have lived here for years with my daughter. We have no place to go. Please, just give us more time." Auntie Maggie shook her head. "No, 7 days. That is enough. By next week, this house must be gone." Priscilla fell to her knees in the dirt. Her small hands joined together. "Please, Auntie Maggie, don't do this to us. Please, we have nowhere to go." Her tears fell on the ground, mixing with the dust. Auntie Maggie bent slightly, smirked, and whispered so everyone could hear, "Cry all you want, little rat. Your papa is a fool. Nothing can save him. He will leave this land." Boniface stood slowly, holding her hands. He opened his mouth to speak, but his legs shook so badly that he couldn't stand. He tried to say something, but all the words stuck in his throat. The village elders looked down at him. The crowd murmured. Priscilla clutched his arm tightly. "Papa, please stay with me. Please, don't faint." But his strength left him. He collapsed onto the ground with a loud sound. The villagers gasped. Some tried to help, but many just watched. His head rested on the dusty ground, his chest rising slowly. His eyes were closed. Priscilla dropped beside him and cried softly, "Papa, wake up! Please, Papa!" Auntie Maggie stepped back, laughing softly. "Ha ha ha! Poor man! This is just the beginning." The elders nodded to Auntie Maggie. "We are giving you 7 days. Then you must leave." Maggie nodded, her face full of satisfaction. Her gold bangles jingled one last time as she walked away, followed by the elders. Boniface's heart felt like it had shattered into 1,000 pieces. His body was weak, his hands empty, his daughter in tears. He could not feed her, could not protect her, and could not fight back. Priscilla held her father's hand tight, unwilling to let go. "Everything will be fine, Papa. Please, be strong," she whispered. Boniface did not answer. His lips trembled, but he was too tired to speak. The shame, the sickness, the helplessness, it pressed on him like a heavy stone.
The 7th day arrived slowly. Boniface sat at his small market stall, staring at the cracked wooden table. His hands rested on his lap. His shoes were dusty, his shirt torn, and his eyes heavy with sadness. The sun burned hot, but he did not feel it. Priscilla sat beside him, quietly holding his hand. "Papa," she whispered softly, "don't give up. Maybe today will be better." Boniface tried to smile, but it was weak. "I have no strength left, my daughter," he said softly. "Even if tomorrow comes, what will change?" The market was quiet. Few people walked past, most too busy to notice the poor cobbler. The broken table wobbled under the light breeze. Then, a loud engine sound echoed across the dusty road. People turned their heads. A white Toyota Hilux and a shiny Prado Land Cruiser stopped near Boniface's stall. 2 tall men stepped out. One wore a suit, polished shoes, and carried a black leather briefcase. The other was holding an envelope. Both looked serious, but kind. "You're Boniface, right?" the man in the suit called politely. Boniface froze. His heart skipped a beat. "Yes, I am Boniface Okoro," he said, his voice trembling. The man handed him the envelope. "This is for you," he said. "It comes from your late father's company." Boniface's hands shook. He stared at the envelope, unable to move. Priscilla leaned forward, eyes shining. "Papa," she whispered softly, "what is it?" He opened the envelope slowly,
almost afraid to see what was inside. A white sheet of paper appeared, along with a check. His eyes widened. "Blood of Jesus! Papa!" she screamed, standing up. "Is that money? Papa, it's real!" Boniface's hands trembled as he held the check. His lips parted. He could not speak. It was a 10 million naira check. Then he saw the second paper, a letter. It was his father's wish, offering him a good position at the very manufacturing company where his father had worked. They also offered him a free 3-bedroom house in the city, fully furnished, for him and Priscilla to live in. He dropped to his knees, tears flowing freely down his cheeks. His body shook with joy and disbelief. Priscilla ran to him, wrapping her small arms around his neck. "Papa, we are going to be okay. We will have a home, real food, and shoes." Boniface buried his face in her hair, trembling. My God, is this really true?" The two men smiled. "Yes, Mr. Boniface, your late father saved this money for his brilliant son. Even though life was hard for you, he always believed you would rise one day." Boniface looked at the crowd of villagers watching silently. Their mouths were open in surprise. Some whispered, others gasped. Priscilla jumped up and down, clapping her hands. "Papa, Papa, we did it! We are going to live in a real house!" Boniface held the check close to his chest. "All these years, all the suffering, it was not for nothing. God, He never forgot us." People around started coming closer, murmuring. They looked at the poor cobbler now holding what seemed like a miracle in his hands. Boniface finally stood, still holding Priscilla's hand. This is just the beginning," he whispered softly. Priscilla looked up at him, eyes sparkling. "Yes, Papa, tomorrow we start our new life." The sun shone brighter, the wind felt warmer, and even the broken table seemed to shine a little under the light. For the first time in years, Boniface felt free. Free from hunger, free from shame, free from the hands of Auntie Maggie. And in that moment, standing in the market with his daughter beside him, Boniface realized miracles really do happen. The news spread quickly across the village. Everyone was talking about Boniface. "God has remembered him," the people shouted with joy. Soon they started calling him the man God remembered. Men, women, and children came to the market to shake his hand. Everyone was happy for him. Boniface smiled, tears in his eyes. He looked at Priscilla. She was dancing and laughing. "Papa, I told you God will bless you one day," she said. Boniface held her close. "Yes, my child, you prayed and God heard you." But far away, Auntie Maggie heard the news too. Her heart filled with hate. She ran home quickly to call the native doctor. "I must stop him again," she shouted. "That money will not change his life." But as she crossed the road in anger, a speeding car hit her. People screamed and ran to help, but it was too late. The same people who once feared her now whispered, "God has fought for Boniface." And somewhere in the crowd, Boniface stood quietly, holding his daughter's hand. His heart was full of peace at last.
The next morning was quiet. The sky was soft and blue, and the birds were singing gently across the village roofs. Boniface stood outside his small mud house. He held the check close to his chest. His eyes were still wet from all the joy of yesterday. Priscilla stood beside him, smiling so wide her cheeks hurt. "Papa, are we going to the city today?" she asked. Boniface touched her hair softly. "Yes, my child. Today our new life begins." They went inside to pack. There wasn't much to carry, just 2 old shirts, 1 wrapper, Priscilla's torn dress, and the little cup they always used to share water. Priscilla folded everything carefully. "Papa, I like this new house they gave us," she whispered. "Will it have food?" "Yes, my daughter, real food, every day." They both laughed softly. Suddenly, a loud murmur rose outside. People gathered near the dusty road. Women covered their mouths. Children pointed. Men whispered. Priscilla ran to the door and froze. "Papa, it's Auntie Maggie." Boniface came out slowly. Auntie Maggie was walking toward them, but she was not the same. Her leg was wrapped in thick bandages. Her arm was tied in a sling. Her head had white cloth around it. She moved with 2 shaky crutches. She looked weak, tired, and broken. The villagers followed her in silence. Maggie stopped in front of Boniface. Tears rolled down her face. "Boniface," she whispered, her voice shaking, I have come to ask for forgiveness." The whole village held its breath. Priscilla held her father's hand tightly. Maggie dropped to her knees, even though it hurt. Her crutches fell to the ground. She cried like a child. "I tried to destroy you," she said, shaking. "I wanted you to fail. I wanted you and your little girl to suffer, but God did not let it happen. Instead, He punished me." The wind blew softly around them. Boniface bent down and held her arm gently, helping her stand. "Maggie," he said in a calm voice, "I carry no hate in my heart. I forgive you." She covered her face and cried harder. The villagers whispered, "Ah, Boniface has a clean heart. He is truly the man God remembered." Priscilla stepped forward, her small voice soft. "Auntie Maggie, please don't hurt Papa again." Maggie looked at her with wet eyes. "I won't, my child, I won't." But something in her eyes looked strange, something no one understood. Boniface turned. The company car was waiting on the road. The door was open. He lifted Priscilla into the back seat. She sat inside, smiling and looking around in wonder. The driver bowed respectfully. "Sir, whenever you are ready, we will go." Boniface turned to the villagers. "Thank you for everything," he said. He looked at Maggie one last time. Then he entered the car. The door closed. Dust rose as the engine started. Priscilla waved at the crowd through the window. "We are going to the city, Papa." "Yes, my child. God has opened our door." The car rolled away slowly, leaving the little mud house behind. The villagers watched until it disappeared down the long, dusty road. Far behind them, Auntie Maggie stood alone, holding her crutches. She wiped her tears, but her eyes slowly changed from sad to cold. She whispered softly, So Boniface is now a big man. He was even raising his shoulders for me. Well, no problem. We shall see." She looked at the road where the car disappeared. A tiny smile touched her lips. Or maybe this is not the end. Was Maggie truly sorry? Or was this the beginning of something darker?